our first guest, the first person I thought of when they asked me to come in and host a show was Michael Brandvold of Michael Brandvold Music Marketing and Digital Strategy. I'm a big fan of both of his podcasts. He hosts the Music Biz Weekly Podcast, and he's the co-host of Three Sides of the Coin, which is a Kiss talk show. Kiss, of course, we'll have coming up later on tonight as we're playing the best of old rock and new rock on this throwback show. So, Michael, welcome to Brave New Radio.
Well, I don't know what to say after an introduction like that.
Well, I guess we'll just wrap it up. Thanks for joining me, Michael. It's great to have you on.
As Gene Simmons would say, Kevin, you're a powerful and attractive man.
See, that I could use that now as a testimonial. I love it. That'll be my new sweeper coming up next year when I get to host next year's alumni takeover. But seriously, Michael, I've spoken to you before on Twitter. I'm a big fan of the Music Biz Weekly Podcast. I have listened to every episode. I mean, you could quiz me. Jay Gilbert, Izzy. It's even great when Izzy's on. And also a big fan of Three Sides of the Coin, a Kiss talk show, which talks about some other music as well. I know Tommy Summers enjoys talking about Motley Crue, and Mark Giacchini is a big Alice Cooper fan, as am I. So you were the first person I thought of to have on tonight. So I know we've talked before about the importance of college radio. So why don't we tell us how you got your start in the music and entertainment business?
College radio. Where I got my start. I grew up as a kid idolizing DJs. They were like rock stars to me. And, when I get a chance to meet a DJ, it was like meeting somebody famous. And when I went to college back in 1980, I'm not gonna, I don't want to date myself.
And you went to Mankato State, right, in Minnesota?
Yep, Mankato State in southern Minnesota. My roommate was like, hey, I'm going to go volunteer down at the college radio station, which was in the basement of the dorm. And I said, well, let me come along. I've never done anything in radio. Went in there, and it was just the coolest thing in the world. It was, this is way before CDs existed, so it was just vinyl everywhere, 45 singles everywhere. And, you could play whatever you wanted because it was college radio. I mean, there was nobody watching over what we did or said. And I quickly started a heavy metal radio show, 2-hour show. And that's when I was like, wow, wait a second. I can get free concert tickets. I can get backstage passes. I can get free music sent to me. This is the coolest thing in the world. Of course I'm going to do this. And the bug just bit. Being in college radio, I moved up to become the music director, and all of a sudden I'm talking to all the radio promotion reps for the Minnesota region, and it was just the coolest thing in the world. And I was just like, this is it. I want to work in the music business. I'm not a musician. I have no musical talent, but I love music. And I just set that as my goal, and when I graduated, I found myself a job working for a management company in Chicago. So college radio is what that's got it started for me, and it'll always be something really important to me.
Now, were you interested in doing anything on the radio or in the music business while you were in high school, or was it after you got to Mankato State, then, you toured the radio station, and or did you have the...
I think in high school, maybe I always thought about being a DJ, but... back then, I graduated in 1982. It was a whole different world than it is now. Your exposure to everything was so limited. So it was sort of like you had no idea how to become a radio DJ. It's not like you could go Google it and find courses. And you kind of had to know somebody who could kind of point you in the right direction. And I just didn't know anybody. I didn't know any DJs. So, I love music, but, as a kid back then, you kind of didn't know what the hell you wanted to do with your life. So it really wasn't until college hit that I was like, wow, here's what I can do. And I'm connecting with the people in the music industry. And yeah, I want to work my passion, which was music.
So then what were you doing professionally in music then for we'll get into everything with KISS, which started about 10 years after you graduated from college. So what types of things were you doing in the music business behind the scenes at that point?
Well, when I graduated from college, I got a job with a management company in Chicago that managed 2 or 3 unsigned bands. They hired me to do marketing and promotion for these bands, and I knew of them because they solicited me their music to play on the radio station, the college radio station. So, I just sent a resume off to the promo person who sent me the album and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." They said, "This would be great. We're thinking about this." They flew me out for an interview, and boom, I'm hired, and I'm being moved to Chicago, and worked with them for a number of years, and then moved into working with a small indie heavy metal label out of Chicago called Red Light Records, and spent a couple of years doing radio promotion. I was the radio promo guy at the record label. So, everything came around. Now, all of a sudden, I'm on the other end of the phone, sending out music to college radio metal shows, and I'm picking up the phone saying, "Hey, can you play this? Can you add it? We're going for ads on this date." It was, I just loved it. It was so exciting. The music business back then was just a whole different world than it is today.
So then when was it that you developed your knowledge of computers and building websites? Because then in 1985, you built one of the first fan websites dedicated to KISS. Was it while working in the record industry and music business that you were, toiling around?
No, actually, I had left the music industry for a couple years because I got kind of fed up with working for people and with people and around people who just didn't know what they were doing. Their heart wasn't in it. They were doing it because they knew somebody. They had the money, whatever it was. I just, I couldn't tolerate it. So computers have always been a passion of mine from day one, computers and marketing. So I was managing the advertising department at a home improvement chain in Chicago, bunch of Macintosh computers, and it was all graphics. And I loved it. It was really cool. It was cutting edge computers back then. And right at that time, HTML, which is the language that builds websites, was just being talked about. And we're talking, this would have been 1993, 94. So the internet really didn't exist as people see it today. Websites didn't exist. I remember reading about this web browser that was going to be coming out called Netscape that was going to let you connect to these websites. And I thought from my own benefit, I should learn this new language because I was in the computer industry. So I decided to self-teach myself how to use HTML and build websites. And the only way you could do it back then was taking somebody else's website and looking at the source code and stealing the code and rewriting it. There were no books, there were no courses, there was no manuals, there was nothing on how to do this. I figured if I was going to do this, I'll build a KISS website because at least that way it's something I love and would be fun to experiment with. And I launched that very first website. It's called KISS Otaku in 1995. Think about that. That doesn't seem all that long ago, but 1995 was like the absolute dark ages of the internet. Google didn't exist. Amazon didn't exist. Yahoo didn't exist. Nothing that you know of the internet today existed. It was just a handful of text-based websites. And, I just put my heart and soul into it, and the timing was right because in 1996, KISS did their reunion tour. And having experience with the music industry, I knew how to interface and connect with the management companies and record labels and stuff like that. So I wasn't that crazy fan. I was actually somebody who understood the business, and the website just exploded and took off. It was right place, right time. It was the birth of websites. It was the explosion of KISS. I'm right there building it. Nobody else was doing anything. And boom, my website just exploded to the point where in 98, I got a phone call from Gene Simmons saying, do you want to come build a website for KISS?
How crazy is that? 5:43 p.m. Kevin Knight here on Brave New Radio, 88.7 FM. My guest, Michael Brandvold of Michael Brandvold Music Marketing and Digital Strategy. So that just proves right there the old adage, you never know when the phone's going to ring. So you get that phone call from Gene Simmons. What happens next?
It's funny because I actually wasn't there. He left a voicemail on the old tape answering machines that you used to have.
Right.
I come home and the little red light's blinking and hit the play button and it's Mike, this is Gene Simmons of KISS. I've got a business proposition for you. Please give me a call. And I knew it was him because I had actually done a little bit of work a couple years prior to that to help them promote their convention tour and a coffee table book that they released called KISS Street 2. So I had a little bit of connection to Gene, so it wasn't a complete shock that Gene was just out of the blue calling me. But, that sort of message, my eyes were like, oh, what is this about? And I quickly got on the phone, and he basically said, listen, what are you doing for a gig? Are you interested in talking about doing a website for us? And, I immediately said, yes, I'm interested in talking. I didn't give myself away right away and just said, sure, I'll do anything you want and I'll do it for free. It was like, okay, let's talk. And he basically said, here's the phone number of our manager, Doc McGee. Give him a call and he'll work out all of the specifics and the details. And that was like August of 1998. And by October of 1998, I had been hired by their merchandising company, the company that made all of their tour merchandise and all the KISS toys and everything you see out there. They actually had the rights to the website, so they hired me.
And that was Sony Signatures?
That was Sony Signatures at the time. And one thing I quickly learned is Gene loves to do all this stuff as long as somebody else spends the money to do it. So Gene's like, hire Mike, but I don't want to pay for it.
That's a great business model.
Yeah, it works. So by October of 98, I had been hired and relocated, and I was now living in San Francisco and building KissOnline.com, which didn't exist. Again, we're talking 1998. Many websites did not exist back then. It was the land rush. Everybody was like, okay, we need to do something. We need to do something. We don't know what to do, but we need to do it. And there I was, basically like in Gene's eyes, if somebody's going to build a KISS website, who's got the most experience? Mike. He's already been doing it for 3 years. He's passionate. He knows KISS. He knows fans. He knows websites. Hired this guy to build it for us.
Such an amazing story. Kevin Knight with Michael Brandvold of Michael Brandvold Music Marketing and Digital Strategy, 547 on Brave New Radio, 88.7 FM. Today is the flashback to Laser Hits 89 PSC-FM days as part of the 30th anniversary alumni takeover here at the radio station. We're going to talk more with Michael right after this.
Laser Hits 89 PSC.
Rebooting Laser Hits 89 PSC with Kevin Knight on the WPSC celebration.
5:49 p.m. Kevin Knight back with you. We go back to the phones. Our special guest, Michael Brandvold of Michael Brandvold Music Marketing and Digital Strategy. We talked about his days in college radio, his days working for record companies, and how he launched the KISS Online website. Basically, their online community was started by Michael. So we'll pick it up there, Michael. You then did some more work and more innovations with KISS, specifically in 2003 for the KISS US tour with Aerosmith, helping to create the VIP Platinum ticket program, which is basically a staple now in the music industry.
You can blame me for spending $1,000 to buy a VIP package for bands now.
Well, now it's $6,500 now for KISS.
Yeah, bands will push the limit, to make every dollar they can, and I don't fault them. This is how they earn their money. Record sales have pretty much completely disappeared. Bands only make money when they tour out on the road, and fans want to pay for that VIP experience, the treatment. And back in 2003, that's what we discovered with KISS. Nobody had been doing this before, and KISS's management said, "Mike, you want us to hold some tickets for the upcoming tour for the website?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with them," because nobody was really doing much with tickets online fan clubs back then. And but I knew they'd be great tickets because I knew when bands held tickets, they held the best seats because they usually were held for friends and family. And they said, "Great, but you have to let us know by the end of the week because we got to release these tickets if you don't use them." So I quickly put on my fan hat as a KISS fan. And I was like, what would a KISS fan want? If I had these tickets, what would they want? Not just sell them the ticket, but what would they really want? They want to meet KISS because KISS has never done meet and greets. You've never gotten photos with KISS. Prior to 2003, unless you literally were in the business or the industry, you didn't go backstage to meet KISS. It just didn't happen. And I said, "Listen, Doc, if we can get KISS to do a meet and greet and take a photo with the band," I was actually pitching initially a $500 ticket and a photo out of makeup. I didn't think there was any way the band was going to be available to do photos in makeup. So I was like, a photo out of makeup with the band, $500, a front row ticket. It all added up value-wise because fans were easily spending, we're talking, this was before StubHub and all these ticket resellers were around. You'd call up a ticket scalper, literally, "Hey, I got a guy. My guy can get me tickets, but my guy's charging me $700 for a front row seat." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll sell it to you for $500. The money goes to the band, not to a scalper." And Doc loved the idea, but he said, "The band will take the photo in makeup." And I said, "If they can do that in makeup, this is a $1,000 ticket." And they bought on. They said, "Great, let's try this out." And, we set all of this up to do 25 $1,000 meet and greets per show for a 60-day tour. And we put them up on sale, and nobody, it was one of those things where either this is going to blow up in our face because nobody's going to spend any money, or this is going to be a huge success.
And it definitely was a huge success.
5 minutes after those tickets went on sale, they were sold out.
And that was every city in the tour?
Everywhere. Yep, everywhere.
Were they shocked?
I think everybody was pleasingly shocked because it was like, okay, this is a new revenue stream. You mean we can spend 25 minutes backstage and we can make, an extra, just off of the $1,000 tickets, we can do an extra $25,000 in ticket sales? Everyone's like, "Yeah, this is great. Let's keep doing this." And once that worked with KISS, every other artist was like, "Really? How do I get in on this? because you got to remember, 2003, definitely record sales were taking a dive at that point in time. They were starting to die big time. So they were looking for other avenues to make money that they were now losing.
And now things have come full circle with KISS as they embark on their end of the road tour, which begins January 31st in Vancouver. Locally here in the New Jersey, New York City area, they'll be at Nassau Coliseum and Madison Square Garden in March. And then in August, the second leg of the tour, they will be at the Prudential Center in Newark and the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Your thoughts on KISS, embarking on this 2 to 3 year farewell tour, I guess you could say, farewell part 2, 18 years later?
It was one of those things where I think as a KISS fan, you knew it was coming. You knew it was the end was approaching. The guys in KISS, some of them, Peter, they're over 70, they're pushing 70. It's a very physical show they put on. They just can't do this forever. And, as much as you hate to admit it, they were closer to the end of their career than the beginning of their career. And sure enough, this year they announced it's the end of the road. We are done. This is the last KISS tour.
It'll be,
and it's a little, I'm not sure as a fan, it really hasn't hit me yet,
right?
Because I just can't see KISS ever going away. KISS as a name, as a brand, as an entity will always be there. Gene and Paul on stage, no, that just can't happen. I mean, why should it happen? I mean, these guys shouldn't be expected to jump around on stage for our enjoyment when they're, 70 plus years old. They should be able to retire and enjoy it.
All right. So now, we talked about KISS, who's enjoyed an amazing 45-year career. Let's talk about something that new bands and new musicians can do, since we're here on William Paterson University radio station, Brave New Radio, 88.7 FM here in Wayne, New Jersey. Colleges, universities are a hotbed for up-and-coming bands, new musicians. What are some things that new bands can do to help network with college radio stations or even network with the universities themselves to try and get gigs booked at colleges and universities? I mean, here at WPSC Radio, they have a little studio out in the lobby that they set up and have live bands come in and play, and they plug right in and do a live concert on the air. So what are some things that new musicians and new bands can do to help network with college radio station as well as try to get gigs at colleges?
Well, I think the first thing is literally do network with college radio stations and colleges. It surprises me how many musicians don't even think about college. All they have in their vision is, I want to be on the biggest radio station in New York City.
Well, they're not going to answer the phone for you right away.
That's just not going to happen. You're not getting there. It's stepping stones to get up there. Go after the college radio stations, the college markets. I remember when I was in college radio, if any band paid attention to me, I showed them so much freaking love. It wasn't funny. If a band picked up the phone and out of the blue called me to say thank you for adding me, man, I was playing them even more. If they sent me an autographed 8x10, I was showing them all the love I could get. So keep that in mind. College radio stations, there's definitely a hierarchy of some big college stations and small ones, but they don't necessarily get the attention that everybody else gets. So don't ignore them. And playing live shows at colleges, that's a huge market. I worked in the company I did worked with out of college was part of the NACA circuit, NACA, the National Association of Campus Activities.
Okay.
And basically that's just all of the college groups get together. Everybody who books entertainment for the next year gets together and they book bands.
And they have money in their budget.
They do. That's the thing. They have more money than the local saloon's going to have.
Sure.
They got They got better venues. They've got better gear. They've got better marketing, better promotion. Go after colleges. And if you get a show at the college, ask them who's the college radio station. Is there a college TV station? Is there a college paper? Is there, reach out to all of the college media, because you've got all of these students who are looking for experience. And they will, they will show you so much love.
It is 6 p.m. Kevin Knight on WPSC-FM, Brave New Radio with Michael Brandvold. We're wrapping up our conversation. We are at the top of the hour. Michael, I could talk to you for about 7 hours. A half-hour interview isn't enough. But in our closing moments here, why don't you tell everybody how can they get in touch with you? How can they download your digital book? How can they find your podcasts as well?
Easiest thing is just head over to my website, michaelbrandvold.com, B-R-A-N-D as in David, V as in Victor, O-L-D.com. You can find links to my Twitter, my Facebook, downloading the ebook. Everything's on there. Links to the podcast. It's all on there. Feel free to send me a message, follow me. Just send me a little note along that says, hey, I heard you on the interview, so I know where you found me. But I love hearing from people.
Michael, we will do this again because we have to talk about you growing up as an AWA wrestling fan in Minnesota.
There you go. Obviously, we got to do some wrestling at some point in time.
We will do it again. Michael Brandvold, thanks for joining me. It was a great conversation, and hopefully listeners found it interesting, and they'll connect with you on social media as well. What's your social media handle on Twitter?
Michael SB.
There it is. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Kevin.
Coming up in a few minutes, we'll have our second guest, B. Brian Blair, pro wrestling legend of the Killer Bees.
WPSC, Wayne, New Jersey. On the radio, 88.7 FM. Online, gobrave.org. A tune-in radio station. Part of the William Paterson Broadcast Network.
Laser Hit, WPSC-FM, Wayne, Pumpkin Lake, Paterson, 88.7 on the digital FM means Laser Hits, 89 PSC.